Hi, Sripriyaa, and welcome to the series of conversations where, as I have told you, we speak to women achievers who we call women trailblazers. We want them to share the story of their lives with us, to tell us about their journey, the work that they do, the ups and downs, challenges, everything about their life, so that other women who are listening in can get inspired and motivated to break out of whatever is holding them back, whether it's a barrier, stereotype, whatever it is, and try and realize their potential, follow their dream. And eventually we want to build a community of women who are there to support, empower, and mentor each other. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. And I just love the idea of, the words inspiration, motivation. They're all very close to my heart. So I'm very happy to be here.
Great. Okay, so just as an icebreaker, tell us a little bit about your early life, your childhood.
Okay, so let me just put it. I mean, there's always a lot of stories to say, but let me just start off that, there are a few words that define my upbringing and where I am today. And so the words I would call out are basically culture, arts, service, and fearless conversations. Those were four defining words of my childhood, and I have a little bit of context and background to each one of them. So
Okay.
I would say that when I was growing up, I think I grew up with my grandparents. So that was a very important and beautiful phase because, although everybody will have parents and grandparents, my father and mother were always in transferable jobs. And so we were always with our grandparents. So one thing I learned a lot about was deep cultural practices, giving importance to one's roots. That's what I learned from my grandmother. And so there was so many different cultural activities coming from a very traditional, conservative South Indian background. So there are lots of culture and activities that were, groomed and, performed in the house. So I always kind of thought that kind of brought joy to me when I saw all the color and a lot of, religious gatherings, and all of that brought joy to me. And so I cherish that even today. And I see myself with deep involvement in that even today. And then the other aspect of service orientation came from my grandfather, because although he was an engineer, I always saw him come back from work, and then there was a whole host of people coming to meet him from different stratas of society, and they would always want him to come take guidance from him, help, and he would help them win legal battles, and kind of being that, helping them steer through some of the life's challenges. And these would be people from extreme low walks of life to his friends and family. They would all come and kind of ask him for guidance, and he would do that. And so I always thought, oh wow, that's always nice to see. One side I saw a lot of culture, one side I saw a lot of service and inclusivity. So those became kind of they were kind of ingrained in me.
Okay.
And then, of course, I think my father's a lawyer. So, few conversations were never really without an argument in our house. So we would always have the ability to speak up, and we were not really asked to keep quiet. Although we may be, that comes from a generation where he may look at us for speaking up, but he never said don't speak up. So I think one side he was a lawyer, but one side he was also a poet. So I think that sense of creativity also came to me from that side. And I think I've always seen my mother as a social entrepreneur, right? From whatever I remember of her, I would remember even the little bit of the road cleaner coming in and asking for my mother to have a conversation and then walking out. And so I've always seen that she's always very connected to the ecosystems that she's part of. So and she was very instrumental in putting me kind of pushing me and understanding that, the background in dance that I have. I've been a classical Indian dancer for over 38 years now. So I think she kind of motivated me to get into that. So I think that's why I said the words culture, arts, service, and fearless conversations. They are the words that I kind of remember from my childhood, Sangeeta.
Okay, great. Very, very interesting. So tell me, as you were growing up, you must have had some aspirations, some ambitions, some dreams. So having a career was one of them?
Yes, I think so. I mean, because let me tell you, I had a very major life accident, I would say, when I was 19 years old, and this was a road accident, and
Mhm.
I was pulled out of a tuk-tuk or an auto,
Mhm.
and it had multiple, I would say, like a typical James Bond movie. It went all over, and I
Oh my
was
God.
dragged in the road, and it was a
Oh,
very horrible accident. But I don't know. Today, I'm happy that I'm sitting and speaking in front of you. But
yeah.
what that taught me was that and what I heard from everybody who came and who saw me right from the moment I bounced out of that big drag in the road was, hey,
Uh-huh.
your life is spared for a larger purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that anybody who came, and it took a year long, I remember it was 1998, and somewhere in August, and it took almost till 1999 February or something to kind of even really recover with multiple rounds of surgeries and this and that. But every time that kind of said, oh wow, you've been spared. So everywhere I turned, I saw my hand with all the bandages. I know, oh my God, I'm able to
Mm-hmm.
walk for a larger purpose. Or you see a completely damaged face and you're like, oh my God, you're a dancer and your face is completely damaged because of the hot sun that you get, the burns on your face when you're
Yeah.
dragged in the road at 3 o'clock in the summer afternoon, right? So it kind of made me remember that, hey, your life is spared for a larger purpose. But the recovery out of the accident was also did not happen in a unidimensional way. So there was always an integrated approach. So every form of medication worked. In Ayurveda worked, or a typical Western medicine worked, and then there were people giving me spirituality and a lot of things. So ultimately the recovery happened only through an integrated lens and or an approach. So I don't think I would have come out of it successfully had I just looked at it as just a medical intervention that will get you out, right? You needed a
Mm-hmm.
lot of emotional interventions to get you out as well. So all of
Interesting.
this kind of said, look, I mean, there's so much, and so I wanted to go and figure out what really, you know, was that purpose. So if, because everybody said your life is being spared and it's fantastic, it's great, it's God's
Mhm.
grace and things like that,
Yeah.
and then I was like, wow, what is that thing? And I kind of slowly started recognizing that what did I do that was different. So from that 19 years where I met with this accident, I started recognizing that, oh wow, what was it that I could do that kind of brought out something in another person or did something new. So I always felt that I could identify people's potential,
Okay.
and I would motivate them to. I remember that I was supposed to take. I was an engineering student, but dropped out of engineering and moved to business administration. So at that
Okay.
time, and when this accident happened, I was supposed to take a paper in financial and management accounting in my second year of business administration. But I
Mhm.
had absolutely no clues because I was a science student. So and then I had to, find somebody to help me, instruct me to understand the basics of even finance and the balance sheets and everything to even take up a university exam. And then when there was this couple of people who were helping me do it, I identified that they were much more than just tutors. They had, so right from that time I kind of motivated them, and they today have great careers in some of the world's largest MNCs from being just an accounts tutor. So what I saw was that the potential to kind of see something hidden in people and kind of motivate them to go there, that was something I saw as a strength. At that time I thought I nagged people that they never they just had to, had more potential, why are you wasting your time? But in the due course, today, being an executive coach, a leadership development professional, and with a couple of organizations that we have, I mean, it has helped me to nudge people in the right direction, right? So from
Yeah.
being that nag without any direction, saying, "Oh yeah, there's something you see, and you want to motivate people to get somewhere else from point A to point B in life," and
Mm.
you did it in a very raw fashion, like, okay, just tell them that they have something more and do it, to helping them realize their own potential, right? That has been a journey. And I think recognizing that is a purpose and kind of building that congruence has kind of evolved the career path. So I realized that my life is spared for a larger purpose and I should do something meaningful with it, and it shouldn't be, and I didn't think of it as a career, but a career obviously evolved, Sangeeta, from that.
Yeah. 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 So a little bit about what exactly you do.
So I have a couple of organizations. So founder of two organizations. One, both of them that found where I founded both with my life partner and business partner. So we have one organization called Sripriyaa Multinational that focuses on sales and sales performance. And the other one is called Global Coaching Lab, where we work on, executive coaching being the fulcrum there, then leadership development. We do a lot around teaming, women leadership development, and a lot of focus on future leaders as well, Sangeeta. So a lot of things around the ecosystem of developing leaders, and another organization, Sripriyaa, that focuses all around building world-class sales organizations. So that's what we do, all around people. I would say people and people development, but with two different focuses. One focusing on the people around the business, and the other one is around the capability and talent within organizations.
Great. So tell me, so this path towards coaching, so you took it up, and of course now you're pretty successful in what you're doing. Any challenges that you faced? So, you would like to talk about them, from the point of view of someone who wants to embark on this kind of a journey, and also not only as a coach per se, but as a woman coach. So both these aspects I would like you to talk about.
Sure. I mean, if I look at, of course, life doesn't come without its challenges. But what I rather would like to talk about, Sangeeta, is the fact that, and it was more about my inner challenges that I feel that I want, that working on them were super important than just the external challenges that you face. I mean, every time you have to get from a point to a different point, there are some systemic challenges, but if you start looking at that, then you're always looking outwards, right? But rather, the evolution for me has been the one of moving away from those inner conflicts. So as a founder of these organizations, you get very passionate about your ideas, you get carried away, and sometimes you fail to see that you got to carry people along in the journey for growth and development. So it's not going to be a solopreneur journey, right? If you want to build organizations. So for me, moving away from that obsession of my idea and what I wanted to do with these organizations to saying, look, how would people evolve and nourish here? How can people, grow in these organizations and that we have, and therefore create an impact to the world? So that inner crossing that chasm itself was a very big challenge, because I remember being a very strong person with a driver personality, where you could become very obsessive with your ideas, with your point of view, with your with your mental your beliefs, your mindsets, but then getting across and building that unconditional positive regard that, hey, you need to have people to grow in the journey. And there comes a point where you were working without, you knew it, but you didn't want to recognize it. But then coming to, crossing that path to say, you got to recognize it, and it's important. And that's where the growth begins. And that's where the joy and fulfillment happens, because you're seeing people, along with you grow. And therefore, we are able to create a larger, impact outside. So that journey was with my own inner conflict from, obsession to compassion. That was the journey of challenge that I have kind of crossed, Sangeeta. And that's what I'd like to present to people, to say, look, we are never going to achieve anything just by being ourselves. So, and there needs to be people along the journey, and it's important to start recognizing their value in that growth.
Yeah. And as a woman, was there anything in particular, or you don't think so?
Well, I really, personally, I have not seen any challenges, because I've had the trait to speak up for a very long time. So I've never feared speaking up. But then there has been a few challenges which I would call as just learning milestones. I haven't felt like a victim. So at the end of the day, you call it a challenge when you, in the way you feel about it, right? So if you are able to kind of move away from that victim mindset, And I think that's where the dancer in me, because I'm always looking at flow. I hate to get stuck in a place. So if I the moment I'm stuck somewhere, people will see me just walking around or doing something, and then I'll suddenly realize that I can move out of it. So it's just creating the flow, right? Has actually of course, thanks to my background in dance, where flow was always a part of evolution for a dancer. But that is actually kind of, I'm able to see that synchronicity to the way I have been able to move away from things very quickly. So you don't become like a shadow victim, right? You can become a positive victim. I would look at it that way.
Okay, that's
So
interesting. All right.
So that's the thing. Yes.
Okay, so tell me something. Of course, at work, you wear multiple hats. You're the coach, and you run your organization. And then, of course, you're a dancer and so many other things. And of course, as a woman, there are so many roles that you have to play. And we're always juggling and trying to, juggle all the various roles and the balls that we have. So anything that you have figured, or any strategy that you use to juggle all these roles?
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, you're right. We have to juggle them, but the only thing is you don't want to drop the ball, right? You just want to
you don't.
act on. So I think for me personally, from where I come from, I would go back to what I learned in the very early parts of my life, which is about being spiritual and being cultural. I mean, those are two practices that have actually helped me to balance my life. For example, there's always been talks in our house to say, hey, can we simplify our lives? Can we simplify our lives? Is a common conversation that I'm sure not only here, but in most households that people would have, to say, how do we, there's lots of things to do. And then when we said, what is the list of things we should simplify? It always comes to cultural practices, not the time that we have in front of our computers, or not the time that we want for our, all the other digital distractions that we are. So nobody says simplify that, but rather we say simplify, let go of these practices. Oh, this is there, so let us go. Let this go. So why not? Why should we do everything on this day? So it's okay. But what I've constantly seen is, even though you're a busy professional, you have all the things, and there are certain things that is defined me and my roots and where I am today. So I ensure that those practices have actually incorporating them into the daily life has actually made a very big difference to balancing as the other aspects. So I know that I may be spending 1 hour in that, but I know that if I'm not spending that 1 hour on that, I may be in front of the computer working. I mean, that's what is going to happen. So I ensure that being a little bit fastidious to some of the practices that I've grown up with and not letting them off your radar. I mean, being conscious about it kind of has helped me balance life. So today when I come back, I can sit comfortably and I feel like, yeah, I've done some practices that defines me. And then that practices that are making me happy from the work front. So I'm kind of ensuring that, and it needs to be needs to be deliberate and intentional for everybody. Otherwise, it's easy to just let go and just get into one side, which creates the imbalance, right? So when you talk about balance, you need to ensure that your holistic personality comes out, and that your childhood, your background, your family, your cultural practices, your work ethics, all of that needs to come in together. They need to fall into place together for talking about balance. You can't really talk about work and life balance from just one or two aspects, right? To say just certain things that I need to do at home to achieving some things at work. So what happens to who you are, where you come from? So what happens to all of that in the ecosystem of balance? So incorporating a few of all of those things have kind of helped me to maintain the balance, just not within myself, but within the household and the ecosystems that I serve. So that's going to be that was a very important realization and a conscious effort. I don't think it comes easily. It doesn't come without some expectation settings with your family. So having that clarity of conversations with your people whom you not only they're going to be very important for your growth and development. So having that ability to speak and have those critical conversations, it's not just about planning the vacations and planning the time off, but it's about having some of the practices that define us.
Yeah.
right? And helping that's going to be, that kind of helps the system to create the balance. So it's not just about you creating the balance for yourself, but it's about the system creating the balance as well. So that way, I think it has really evolved and is evolving for me. And also practices, because you are because of that spirituality, there's always an element to staying calm, putting that
Yeah.
centering
Yes.
practices that
Yes.
we do.
Yes.
I don't call it as meditation. I even sometimes may meditate with my eyes open, and I don't really call, I don't know whether meditation is the word to use for it, but just finding those pockets to stop that constant chatter in the head and connecting to the wisdom of your soul. I think those practices during the day, somewhere, or the finding those pockets, and I wouldn't even say I do it at this time or this particular time. So whenever I find the time, right, I just do it. And I think those kind of those that clarity where you those moments where you can get that clarity, and also doing some of these things that that keeps you and your ecosystem happy, then eventually you feel a little I don't know whether it's balanced, but at least I can go to bed peacefully.
Yeah. So I think it centers you, and when you are, and in a way you're at peace, and when you are at peace, then you can look at everything and handle everything also easily. And yeah, I get that. Okay.
Absolutely. The fact that, Sangeeta, I don't say that that I've completed all my to-do list. Just by doing all of this, my list has not come down for sure. So that way it may look imbalanced, but at least there is a sense of peace within you.
Yeah. So tell us, in the life so far that you've led, of course, you have miles to go, but if you were to look back today, what would you think has been your biggest achievement so far? I mean, it doesn't have to be, materialistic or anything. It could be something to do with, your soul, with your inner self. It could be anything.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I kind of will take on from what you just asked or what you just said. So I believe every time I take action, when my voice is trying to stop me, right, I believe I'm successful. So every time I'm taking some action, which is kind of, so there are some voices that's from within me. They speak up to say, hey, I mean, this could fail. For instance, I have two examples. One is the way my company Global Coaching Lab was founded itself, was the fact that I was wanting to become a coach to help my husband set up his organization Sripriyaa, because he was just working, and after a year I saw him losing bandwidth, and I said, look, it's a sales organization and I have no background in sales. I've always been in strategy and business, so I have no understanding of sales. So what do I do to help him grow his business? And then I said, coaching seemed quite accessible. I didn't know what coaching was then in 2010-11 timeframe. So I said, it seems accessible than the word consulting and training. So let me become a certified coach to kind of, help build the coaching practice. So that was the intent. But then I got into a program, and that, any coaching program requires you to get a stipulated number of coaching hours before they even the certification. And then, of course, when I had to do that, and I was just moved from Singapore to Gurgaon for a brief time, and I was wondering, how do I meet people? And I didn't want to just tick the list using friends and family. You wanted to really talk and have some meaningful conversations, and enable transformation. And then I was thinking for a while, and of course, Venkat was very busy. He was traveling all over. He didn't have the time to get the connections for me. And then I went into on a Sunday afternoon, I went into a LinkedIn forum. I think it's called Coaching Zone or something. I don't quite remember the name now. But then I went and put a post out there in the forum saying that, hey, look, I'm getting certified as an executive coach. And if there are others who are getting certified as coaches, we can coach each other to build a coaching practice, because my intention to become a coach was to build a successful coaching practice for the organization. And I said, if there are fellow coaches, why don't we coach each other to build a healthy practice? And then within a few days, I got a few responses, but then after a week, I had people reaching out from different parts of the world. I mean, from the US, from Poland, and all over. I mean, I even had conversations from coaches in Madagascar at the time. So
Okay.
there were, within a month, we had about 500 people in that network. All
Wow.
happened in a LinkedIn forum, and we were coaching each other. And they were not just coaches, more than half of them were managers having issues in organizations. So, and this platform just became an opportunity for them to really enjoy some good pro bono coaching. So that was
Okay.
how the origin of a practice started. And it was, and then of course the coaching zone, which is the forum that where we were doing all of this, perhaps felt the pressure of our conversation was the only thing that was happening there. And then we said it doesn't look right. So a group of us who had initially connected, we said, hey, why not we start another LinkedIn forum? And let's call it, and we came up with the name Global Coaching Lab. So Global Coaching Lab actually originated as a LinkedIn forum, and today it's a company. But the reason I'm saying this, Sangeeta, is the fact that at that time my inner voice was obviously telling me that, hey, you're reaching out to people whom you don't know, and how can you get certified as a coach when you have to get certified within this time? But how, if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have reached out to so many people, and this would not be happening. So every time there is this inner voice that is kind of putting me down, and I take the initiative and effort to just get out of it, I think I'm successful every time I do it. And this happened in 2011 timeframes with the with how this organization called Global Coaching Lab came into origin. But if it's all right, I have another story that I can just share here, Sangeeta, which happened quite recently, sometime last year. And it's an organization. It's we're not like extremely big organizations that we have huge marketing budgets to spend. So we kind of want to keep we grow at a pace, because we are a debt-free organization. We want to grow at a pace that is comfortable for all of us. But at the same time, marketing becomes a very important aspect for any business growth as well, right? So I was thinking about it, and I was wondering, and there was a little bit of battle within me. Hey, what's it? I mean, how do you move the organizations forward? Having crossed a decade with both of the companies, I mean, you have the itch to, you can grow more, right? And that's when I kind of thought about a very interesting, and I was seeing this was also in the coming out of the pandemic, everything, people were kind of, there was a lack of, or rather you said in the very beginning of the conversation, inspiration. People had forgotten that they could inspire themselves.
Okay.
Seeking inspiration outside. So there was an interesting marketing campaign that we came out with, which was called Little Me Inspiring Me. And how does that little you, there was something that you were young that has inspired you. Can you remember that and kind of bring back that inspiration into your lives? So we kind of brought that campaign last year in January. It was called Little Me Inspiring Me. And within a few weeks, there were about 1 million impressions in that. And so, and people from, a lot of people from the Middle East or, the Saudi Arabia part, they were contributing their stories to the campaign. And that's when I realized, oh, look, marketing need not be really very fancy. You could really get important things and messages out using the power of story, and all you need to is get people together, and then you could bring out some important, beautiful messages. And so that was also a time where I felt there were some voices putting me off. You don't know all these things. You don't know anything about marketing. What are you going and doing there? But sometimes, just getting out of that inner voice is all that it takes, right? Just putting a earplug to it and just taking the drive. That I think has given good success that I've personally seen. And I think that's a great opportunity for others to, to imbibe as well.
Absolutely. Sangeeta. Listen to your voice, listen to your instinct, your gut. You never know what comes up. So on a day-to-day basis, how do you motivate yourself? I mean, there are days when we are down and out and not feeling our, usual energetic selves, wanting to go out there with that drive and, that motivation. So what do you do to get out of those blues?
Correct. I think one of the one of the basic things is I don't compromise on taking care of my physical self, because the body is the foundation for anything that we want to do, right? Be it the work that we want to achieve, or the aspirations that we have, and even the fact your mind and the emotions are all housed within this particular body. So I feel that I've never compromised on letting me not taking care of the body. And I not only do this for myself, I kind of bring this out as is very important for even my team members, etc. So constantly working, and I go a little bit a little notch to take it one step further, where I kind of have instilled some punishments if I don't take care of my body. I would never have breakfast if I've not done my workout. So, and my household knows, even my help, and she would remind me, you've not done your workout. So I because I've empowered her to tell me that that you can't compromise on not working out. So I don't have breakfast until I work out. And if I don't work, let's say it's 9 o'clock, then my breakfast becomes 10. So I have made it a little bit harsh. I know it's a harsh thing and you don't need to, but sometimes, we can get easily carried away with work emails or some team calls and things like that in the morning. And in Singapore, you're waking up ahead, and you have your offices in India and everything. So you're already giving them instructions the moment you wake up, seeing emails from the previous day night. So you have high chances to not take care of your body. And so I do every day. I mean, almost 7 days. I don't let go of the 7th day as well, to do some form of a physical activity that kind of energizes me and kind of keeps that space for myself, right, where I can center myself. So that is something I don't compromise. And of course, I'm also very conscious about what we eat. That is one important aspect of, I remember in 2006, Sangeeta, my grandmother was visiting me in Singapore. And at that time we had it's about 2 years since we moved, and she was visiting us for a summer break. And then she saw us eating leftovers, which is typically the culture, right? You heat, you reheat, and you eat. And then she said, look, I don't think we earned so much as you guys, but we never ate like beggars. And that kind of threw me off. And I made a promise to her that I'll have fresh meals all 3 times every day. And that, I think, has played a very important aspect to the energy that I bring on board. So, that conscious effort to plan, to ensure that I don't eat a leftover meal. So that if you come to our house, there's no leftovers. So I just ensure that we make fresh food all 3 times, of course, with the help of the support network that you can't afford to not have. But having that, so that kind of keeps me planned. And you need to be energetic to plan all 3 meals every day, and so for all of us. So those are things that kind of are some things that I do on a regular basis, that kind of builds that energy and drive within me. The other aspect, Sangeeta, when it comes to saying that, you have a large vision. I mean, the vision that we have set for ourselves is to say, touch and transform 100 million lives by 2025 and 1 billion lives by 2030. So that's a large, audacious vision you have. But you need to, with that large vision, you need to build in those micro milestone meanings, right? So it could, you get that there is a large something, but then you need to build meaning in every day that you do to keep yourself motivated to go towards that vision. Because otherwise the vision could be a little daunting. It's very audacious and it's very daunting, and you may see yourself, sometimes just feel pressured because of it. Are you building those
breaking a big target into small achievable targets, and that kind of motivates you? I understand that.
So what are some meaningful things that you do in the path to that larger purpose, right? So that's also very important to balance. But all of this requires a lot of drive and energy, and one needs to be conscious about keeping one's energy and time and all of that into taking that into account, and just not fizzle away things. Sometimes we tend to we need to be intentional as we want to achieve more as women, we need
Yeah,
to become
yeah.
a little bit more intentional and deliberate, and then not complain when we have not achieved it. And probably not the external world's problem, it's your problem, right? So you need to be
Correct.
intentional, and you need to voice out your intentions. And sometimes I've seen that just talking about it or even articulating it, having the ability, the vocabulary to articulate what is in your head to everybody around, makes a very big difference, because they can then, keep you on track. That's what I feel has really helped me, Sangeeta.
Okay. So, Sripriyaa, tell us, where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Coaching, dancing, bit of both, or something else?
I would think, as I said earlier, it has to be integration for me. So I don't like leaving things in pieces. I'd like to all for things to come together. So one thing I visualize is the fact that how do I bring some form of an integrated education and cultural foundation? That's
Okay.
the vision. Because so far what we're working with is obviously adults, professionals in the corporate world. That's where both my work is on, with people in those spaces. But now if you want to work with the future, it's going to be like starting to work with them rather than finding issues in a maze that we work with leaders currently. I mean, how could you start working to build, future leaders with higher consciousness and with greater awareness? So
Okay.
those are those ideas are some things that are coming up now for me, Sangeeta, and slowly putting a plan, because obviously without a plan, everything is just an idea going in your headspace, right? So working to build a plan where the work that we're currently doing, how can it connect back to creating an integrated and experience for future leaders, also
Okay.
connecting with the cultural foundations that societies need to evolve with, not evolve without. So it's how do you do this possibilities of the and, where education for the future and culture play a very important aspect of building future leaders. So that's a plan that we have. It's kind of maybe a year down the road I'll have more clarity, because I'll be putting some thoughts to it in greater detail. But right now, the urge to create this is very strong. So I hope I'm able to create that, that drive that has brought me so far, also helps me to, to build that, because I don't think the vision to touch 100 million lives by 2025 and 1 billion lives by 2030 is just going to happen by working with adult professionals. It has to work with the larger ambit of people and societies, because being in Singapore, I see, I mean, this is a blend of societies and cultures, and it plays a very important aspect for standing out. Differentiation of human beings and their practices make a very big difference, rather than trying to fit in. So what I see here is that either you're able to stand out, or you're trying to fit in and blend in into today's world, and I don't know for what. But so having the ability to stand out through your cultural practices and having an integrated education is what I believe can make a big transformation to the future. And I'm hoping that the drive that I have can, carry me forward that way. So that's where I see myself down the road. I don't know, it can be faster as well. So I wouldn't put 10 years, Sangeeta. I don't know whether it can be in 5 as well, or it can be in 15. I don't know, but it's going to be happening down the road.
I'm sure it'll happen if you manifest it. Yes, I'm a strong believer of that. If you put it out there, it will happen. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Welcome. So tell me, Sripriyaa, as a woman, certain things life must have taught you, how you should have done certain things or not done. So could you share some of those with us? And those could be, certain like pieces of advice for young girls as well, who are on the threshold of, getting into their professional or personal lives. So you could, just kind of combine that experience, those lessons of yours as, advice for these young girls.
Sure. I mean, there are few things that stand out for me in my as learnings, Sangeeta,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this when after founding these two organizations and being part of the growth journey here, I
Mm-hmm.
find that what I've learned is there's no place for aggression, there's no place for assertiveness also, because being a woman, even if you're assertive, you're anyways termed aggressive. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe that inspiration has no gender. So I've learned that, at any point in time, learn to be more inspirational. It's not about being assertive or being aggressive or, just not speaking up and being passive. So I've left all of that to one side and saying every opportunity, learn to be inspirational to people around and to yourself, right? So that's been one important lesson that I've learned. I've let go of those other words. And then the other aspect that I've learned is all about don't wait for magicians to come. You become the magician,
Wow.
right? So
Yeah,
you
that's
keep
great. Mm-hmm.
waiting for somebody else to come and wait for you and be that person. So you be the magician for yourself and for people around at every opportunity possible. And that's something that undoubtedly has put me in good stead.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, especially when I'm building teams and wanting to grow the business from just, a small team to a larger team, and when we're working across geographies, um, you know, that passion shouldn't become command and control.
Okay.
Accountability is absolutely important as we build our ecosystems, but it needs to have a certain other principles. One, of course, compassion being one of them. I wouldn't say it has to be all compassionate, but compassion along with inclusion,
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
people and their voices into the accountability is very important. Especially that has been a very, very big lesson and learning for me.
Okay.
And the other important aspect is, I've seen this. I'm a person with divergent thinking, so I never like to bring structure. So I'm always all about, thinking of multiple different ideas, multiple different swim lanes. So I'll never be happy just doing one all the time. So for
Yeah.
me, it's even while looking at different aspects of growth doesn't come just doing one or two things. So divergent thinking is what dictates me. But then I've learned that without convergent actions, progress cannot happen. Divergent thinking is important, but convergent actions are equally essential for progress to happen. So those have been my biggest learnings, if I have to call as what I've learned establishing these organizations, Sangeeta. And
Mm-hmm.
for your other question, which is all about what is the advice for young girls on the threshold, to get a threshold of their working lives. That was another question you had.
Mm-hmm.
So there are three things that I'd like to put out as from my own learnings is the word cognitive intelligence, because in what I said earlier, you need to have the inner drive.
Yes.
You shouldn't forget that you can inspire and you have the inner drive to create excellence. That people always talk about cognitive intelligence and emotional intelligence, but they forget to talk about cognitive intelligence. It's the drive within every individual that helps them to do or not to do, right? So it's
Yeah.
that ability, the volition to do, and you need to build that consciously and do practices that helps you to build that energy and drive to achieve things. The
Okay.
other aspect is the clarity of purpose. So, it's always important to have a vision statement for yourself,
Hmm.
and and create that vision that is that is inclusive and that's humble. So having a strong vision statement, but coupling that with being humble and inclusive is a very important aspect. And that's when the
Yeah.
purpose is truly clear. And I think that's very important aspect for people to have that vision. And the other thing is always what I keep saying is don't forget your roots and culture,
Oh,
because
yeah.
including that in your future can help you differentiate yourself. So I think those are three messages that I want to share to the young girls.
Thank you. That's actually excellent. I mean, I really like the thought. Of course, you keep yourself grounded with your culture. So that is your roots. And then, of course, you use your wings to fly, but don't forget where you came from. And yes, it's not always about being assertive and aggressive, inspiring. And yes, these are different ways of looking at the same thing. Yes. And I think this is something we need to understand, because I just feel that youth sometimes, maybe it is the age or something, that you tend to become a little more aggressive than required. You react rather than respond to situations. So those are things which of course they come with age, but if we could share some of our learnings and hope that those get picked up by the young girls. So yeah.
Correct.
All right. So you've been, of course, a successful woman, a woman who has followed her dream, her passion. Of course, you're still following, and you're doing what you want to do and what you've always wanted to do. How does the world look at women who do this, who are able to, be independent in every respect, in the sense financially, emotionally, make a mark for themselves? How does the world react to women, such women?
I think there's a quote that I'm reminded of with your question. It says, we get relegated to how we sound. So, okay. I mean, I believe, it's in the way we position ourselves, the world regards us in that same manner. So, so I've always believed that if you are able to have the ability to to speak, to communicate, to articulate effectively, and to bring a sense of connection to people around wherever you are, and to whichever ecosystem you're part of. I think the world will obviously, nobody does not want to be part of a success. Everybody wants to be part of success. So you want to, and if your success is obviously Machiavelli and for yourself, then you're going nowhere. So that's where that learning to build that consensus, having the ability to what do I call, especially in the professional world, learning to play constructive politics. Okay, it's going to be a very important aspect for women, and that's how I have personally seen myself. When I'm in the middle of people around me, how they regard comes from how I want them to regard me. And second is, how do I build the net, weave that tapestry around all of them, because my success is not without them. So that way, I feel that the world obviously has been very encouraging to me when I've done this. I have not come to this conclusion without having some tough learnings. So I have felt isolated, and I have also done some mistakes, but I just feel that it comes with maturity. But having ability to believe that, hey, if you want to be a victim, then you will be regarded as a victim. But if you want yourself to be a success, people will want to be part of success. As nobody, it doesn't have to be man or women. I think everybody wants to attach themselves to something very successful. And if the success is also inclusive of them, then why not be that women who can build that inclusive success, right? So that's a learning that has come with, but of course, I'm grateful that the learnings has come with some costs, but I'm happy today with the learnings.
That's the journey. And I think those costs make you who you are. And as you very rightly said, we've got to, teach people how to treat us. And it has to start with how we treat ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So now just moving away from this a little bit. And so around us now, we see a lot of people doing different things, picking up careers which were unheard of in the times when we grew up, or even those people who were doing, those following regular careers like a doctor or a lawyer or a CA, now shifting gears and doing different things. So people are taking to writing, to hiking, to gardening. How is this happening? How is this shift in mindset? And what do you have to say about it?
I think why it is happening, I think, of course, there is a greater sense of awareness and a greater sense of choice, right? With at least people who are, the power, I would say choice is power today, right? So having choice is power. And I think given that power has increased within every individual, I think people are willing to go ahead, experiment, and find what thing. I'm calling that thing in caps, because that thing is, you have the power of choice to go and experiment. And I think that's what is creating this. But I'm also seeing that there is a lot of greater collective consciousness. I think voices, people, movements and voices, I think are kind of encouraging people to tap into that space. And I also think there are a lot of role models out there that I can see in the social world who are also I mean, social world is just one part of it, but I see a lot of role models coming up, talking about, taking that time to to create that meaning. And we spoke about purpose and earlier in our conversation. I think finding that meaning is very important in the journey to the larger purpose, because if you don't have meaningful things to do, then that purpose looks like somebody else's purpose. So you need to connect the dots well. And I think that's why people are able to take that choice, or rather enjoy that choice, and try and look at different things that can help them create a holistic life, or a holistic personality at the end of their journey, and call themselves as fulfilled individuals. But I think it's not as easy as what we are talking here. I think it comes at a certain cost, because it needs to happen in a more integrated manner, because it's not just about going and experimenting in a random manner. So
definitely not.
Yeah. So I think having that congruence is very important. Having that mind, body, heart and soul congruence is very important while you do all of this. So when your experimentation, if you're going to let go of one part of that, which is, let's say, I'm going to let go of body, then what happens? There's never going to be that congruence. Although you may be, experimenting and enjoying your choices to go and experiment and build on different experiences to, then build your careers or build your lives. But having a sense of congruence to the entire journey as the unnegotiable foundation is going to be a very important aspect for all this, the experimentation that we see around, that people are, shifting gears and taking these. But I think it's going to be a great opportunity for this set of people who are evolving, right? Because they're going to be able to connect to a whole set of experiences that can help them perhaps tackle the complexities the world has to throw. I mean, they are ready, they're adaptable. So I think this world, whatever we call VUCA, has become BANI, and all of those words, the acronyms that we're talking about these days. I think they're more ready to go and experiment, and I think that's the plus point that they have. But if they are able to do it with a sense of deep connectedness at the base, as the foundation, then all of what they're doing can lead to great results.
Absolutely. And I think make them more wholesome, more fulfilled. And, when you kind of, by switching to something different, you're exploring another side of your personality. So that can, add on to it and make it, enrich it, in that sense. All right. So my last question, which I ask every woman, no matter where she comes from, what her background, they say a woman can have it all. So do you think so? Can a woman have it all?
I think the answer can be an yes, but it with a but.
Yes.
And I think there's this quote by Sun Tzu, right? That I'm kind of that I often recall myself. It says, "We will know when to fight and not to fight."
Yes.
Right. So when you so there's a big war to be won, and if you're going to be focusing on all the small battles, then you're never going to be able to focus on the war, which is the ultimate, which is where you want to. So you need to know where to spend your time and where not to spend your time and energy on. And when you are able to have that level of maturity, then I think we can have it all from, I would say, not from a very theoretical sense, but from a more holistic sense of who you are. So if you know where to focus, forget all the unnecessary things that don't add value and meaning to your lives and to the vision that you have, and you are able to create that focus, then I think we can have it all. But if you don't do it, then we're going to be forever being, pressed for things, and then we'll never feel that we can have it all. But it's most important to take support and build a team, especially in the professional world. We need to take support and build a team to really say, I have it all. So choosing where to focus and being at it in a nice way, being kind to yourself, being nice, having that, enjoying that space, and then moving forward with people around. I think then we can proudly say we can have it all. But if you don't do some of those essential things that can help you in this path, then I think it's going to be no as an answer. But yes, we can have it all is what I'm hoping, Sangeeta.
Yes, I actually believe. And of course, I, as a woman, should have the liberty to decide what my all is. And then, of course, like you said, you pick your battles, make your choices, know what you want. Then that is how. So the definition of all depends on you largely. What is it that you want? And how much are you willing to, go for it? And of course, like I said, the choice has to be yours, definitely. So thank you very much. It was indeed a very, very enlightening conversation, and especially that bit that you said about divergent thinking and convergent actions. I mean, I am someone who's guilty of that. I love doing different things, but then ultimately I feel that it has to converge. The actions have to converge. Otherwise, you will be all over the place and will not be able to make any progress anywhere whatsoever. So that, I think, was a very, very important takeaway. So, thank you very much for being on the show. It was a pleasure. Hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Absolutely, Sangeeta. It was really, I think it was really good connecting the dots. Sometimes you're just moving on through the day and you're feeling like you're in the spin, right? But it's good that we got this reflective pause for about an hour, and glad it could benefit others. But I just have one important thing that kind of comes up to my mind right now is to say it's very important for women to, at no matter what, you may have a PhD in communication, but go back and keep working on it, because sometimes we just need to work on it to articulate better. Even like if I need to know what I want and which battles to focus on, I need to be able to communicate that. So you
definitely
constantly working on that is going to be a very, very important aspect for our growth.
I agree. Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right.